All right, Nate Boyer is joining us.
Yes.
I gotta tell you, it's an honor. I'm very happy to have you on. I requested you, and I was like, that's probably a long shot, but I'm very happy that you're here.
Yes.
On
Thank
the
you for
Maybe
your
Crazy
service.
Well, I'm a
Crazy
long
podcast.
shot, so it's perfect.
Oh,
that's
very
awesome.
good.
Yes.
Very
Everyone.
nice.
Yes, thank you very
you
much.
are
Yeah, of course.
you are way tougher than us. You are
Yes.
a Green Beret in the Army. My grandfather was in the Army for 30 years. My cousin still serves in the Army. My uncle served in the Army. My sister's active duty Air Force. Brandon has a long military background as well. His father was Marine.
Yeah, we were both USA members.
Yes,
So,
proudly.
For life.
Yes, for life. USA. Yes, USA for life. Yes. Do you know?
I'm with
that-
Allstate, Joe.
Oh, what are you doing?
Is that good?
I got
Should
a
we
better
switch?
deal. I got a better deal. That's all. I mean,
know
When I
what?
get a better deal, I'm jumping
It's
ship.
funny that you said that because I will admit I once looked into other ones and then I was like, you know what? Their commercials they seem like it's just like there's no better insurance.
Just the
I'm not
stars
knocking
and-
off.
Yeah. They've been very good to me.
They bundle. I got a bundle deal.
Yeah,
I had to go with
yeah,
it.
It's all about the bundle,
Yeah,
unless
all
it's
about the
cable because that's a lot.
And you don't need the hardline phone.
You don't need the phone.
I mean,
Everything
Who
always
has
needs
a phone
I
anymore?
I want one because I want to hear the ring and I want to ignore it.
No, I don't ever want to hear a ring ever. When my phone goes off now, I'm terrified. Like, oh my god, it happened on the
Wait,
show
what
the other
happened?
day. Actually,
What?
yes,
Did it hit the audio?
it did.
What?
It did, and
But
I
why?
did not get shamed for it. It was actually during her line too.
was
Here's what
during
happened.
your segment and
So
your phone
I know
goes
because
off.
I put my boyfriend Earl. I put his text messages on. There's like some setting where even if I have my phone on silent, his
Right.
will still come through.
Yes.
But it's on Do Not Disturb. Well, I forgot that like I didn't actually put it in Do Not Disturb, so it did the little ding, and then I had a small heart attack. But it was all fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
And,
Makes life fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of anxiety on live television.
We're talking to him about small heart attacks. Like,
Well,
situation.
yeah. Okay, no. So before
Basically the same as getting shot at. It's the
no,
same
no,
thing.
no jokes
I'm
about
teasing.
that.
I'm teasing.
Not at
I'm
all.
teasing.
Right.
Not at all. I have high anxiety, so I could never be in a situation like that whatsoever. I'd be the wrong person to put there. But you were talking about right before we started recording that very casually you mentioned that you climb Kilimanjaro every year, like as if like, but that's no big deal.
Yes.
Once a year, I
Well,
go
I don't
to
want
Pilates,
it. It's a clean water project. So
Okay.
that's why you gotta. That's
Yeah.
there, but it's not the most important thing because
Right.
we do it for clean water in East Africa. So it's actually the organization is called Water Boys. It was started by Chris Long. And
So you climb it with him.
Yeah, I climb it with Chris. We bring other NFL players every year. Last year we had Steven Jackson and Vince Young. The year before we had Connor Barwin. We've had a bunch of other players, but we also bring wounded veterans. So we've had single leg amputees that have climbed with us. Kirstie Ennis probably being the most prominent because she is an above the knee amputee, and she was the first above the knee female amputee to summit Kilimanjaro. She's trying to do Denali and Everest and all these other things, but it's all. The reason we do it is because it's a really interesting story, and people are like, wow, what's going on? Why are they doing that? And then they find out about the why, which is clean water. And, so far, over, $1 million have been raised for water wells out there. Every year we go in, we get to be a part of the dedication ceremonies. And,
Oh, that's great.
we go, it's with the Maasai people, which is just this beautiful culture. And they're so grateful for just clean water. You know what I mean? Like, that's all they want. It's all they need. And it's really cool. It's really special.
What did I tell you? Today's meditation was about gratitude.
Yes.
So there you go. It's
Yeah,
all
be
it's
grateful.
all
Yes,
good in the
perspective
universe.
is important.
Yes. So, are you still a 49ers fan?
I'm still a 49ers fan.
So you didn't have a good start this week.
Wait, we said we didn't?
No, not so much.
You know what? A grain of salt, because the Vikings are a really good team. We're on the
Great
road. We lost Jerick McKinnon and now maybe Marquise, who I played with in college, who's an awesome human being and also a great football player. So with all that being said, we were still in the game. We lost by 8. Jimmy didn't play very well.
You guys were in a lot of games last year, if you remember.
What's that?
You were in a lot of games last
We
year.
were in a lot of games. And we won the last 5, but I mean, a couple of those were throwaways. Teams were
Well,
pumping
Jimmy
the brakes.
had to lose a game eventually.
He did have to lose
Right.
one of them.
Eventually, just
Yeah, Jimmy Garroppolo losing his first game is like Sam Darnold throwing an interception pick 6 on his first pass.
throw,
You know what I mean?
yes.
It's like, it's synonymous,
It's
right?
going to happen.
there are things that are gonna happen.
It's going to happen.
So
Maybe just be cognizant of your off-season choices.
Right.
Oh,
Right. Full circle. We were waiting for
now
this.
yes, you are the first person. You're the first person because I thought of this.
It's possible.
I think I
There's
know what
something to
you're
do with it.
alluding to.
Oh, we talking
No.
about the date.
Are
We're
we
talking about the date.
Let's just get it out there. We're
Yeah,
talking about the date.
Talking about the date.
Okay,
And,
all right.
yeah,
So
talking about
we
the date.
were not. I was not.
Yeah.
incredibly judgmental of Jimmy G.
I'm not
for
being
his
judgmental.
date.
I'm just saying
No.
be cognizant of your choices.
But
Yes.
okay, because
Yeah.
this is what I said was going to happen. I'm fine with whatever you do. Without two consenting adults do with their time, even if it is the most visible restaurant in all of Hollywood, where you can paparazzi literally don't even have to wait for you to come out because they can
Yes.
shoot you from the street.
Yes. Other restaurants should have been chosen.
Right, or maybe just
Possibly.
Postmates.
Right.
Everyone does it.
Netflix and chill
Netflix
is an
and
option.
chill.
Netflix
That's a
and
choice you can
chill.
make.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
you have these options available to you. Hulu. So there's options. But the point is, if you're gonna do that, you better be pretty consistently good because that's what's gonna come up. So you are the first one, Nate, to bring up the date corresponding
Coming from Niners
with
fans.
the L.
Niners fans are,
Yes.
are
and you're allowed to because
paying
you
attention.
are a Niners fan. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So hey, it's to each his own. and I still have a lot of belief. I still think I know it's a really good team, and he's a great player, and I'm looking forward to the future. It's just I don't know. It's something to be noted. That's all.
Yes.
We'll just leave it there.
So a former 49ers quarterback was all over the news last week. Maybe you saw it. The Nike ad.
No, I have
No,
idea
it
what
was
you're talking
okay.
about.
Yeah, it was just a small
What's
small
Nike?
ad. Yeah, exactly.
Climbing a mountain all last week.
Right,
So,
and everyone freaked out, and then the crash went. The stock went down a little bit, and then inevitably went back up because it's $1 billion company that's all over the world. So, what was your reaction when you saw the ad?
Well, I'll say first. I mean, maybe the stock went down and all that, but if you look at just on social media alone, the amount of like shares and likes for that ad, I mean, 5 times what they got from anything else, probably in I don't even know years, maybe not years, but a long time.
Sure.
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I think much like maybe a lot of the owners' fear of signing Colin. I think more than anything, that being a business decision and worrying about the bottom line, I think this was, a business decision, and I think it's potentially a very profitable one. There's a lot of people that obviously support that message, and the commercial itself is not. If you watch it and listen to it, it's not about politics at all,
Right.
really. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
And it's not even about. Yeah, it's nothing to do with what the controversy, I guess, has been over the last couple of years. Obviously, the reason he's the face of the campaign, it has to do with that. But it doesn't really seem to push that narrative to me anyway. I think the only thing from a veteran's perspective and a lot of people in the veteran community that was off-putting is not so much Colin, it was the words sacrifice everything.
Right.
I think that was the thing that hung a lot of people up, and I get that. And I'm not, I'm not surprised by that. But at the same time, like Nike, this is what they do. Like Nike's, they make bold statements.
Right.
You know what I mean? They
Edgy.
take
Right.
chances, edgy. Like,
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward.
Right, yeah.
and I mean, just I don't know, the burning the shoes. It's just like the burning when they burned Cap's jersey after. I mean, it's just silly, and it's a very small percentage of people. I don't think it's representative of.
Loud
Right.
minority.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that always happens. Like when someone gets traded or leaves a team or something, like the 10 people that burn a jersey are the ones that are going to go viral, and the millions of others who are just like disappointed and then go about with their day
Right.
are what's actually happening.
Right.
And, we're media, so we focus on those little things. To me, I totally understand what you're saying as far as veterans or, families of veterans reacting to that statement of sacrifice everything. And I think like in today's society, it's hard to not overreact to every single word, literally, that is used in or around these controversial situations. And it kind of gets balanced with like, put it in perspective to what he's saying. Like he's not a veteran, so sacrificing everything to him is sacrificing his career.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Everything he
everybody
worked
can't
for.
be in the military. Everybody
Right.
isn't
That's a
in
good
the
point.
military.
That's a good point.
That's why we say thank you for your service and hold you to the highest regard whenever you do sacrifice make the ultimate sacrifice, obviously. So that's sacrificing everything to him. So everything has to be put in perspective. But we don't live in those times anymore. So it, just like you said in your letter, we are like completely divided. And so you connected with Kaepernick. You wrote an open letter to him. It's available everywhere online if you haven't read Nate's letter. And when the controversy started, you were actually the one who advised Kaepernick to kneel instead of sitting, right?
Yep.
So what was your mentality behind that? Like what led you to that suggestion?
I mean, I'll just take you through the week real quick. That was that week. So this was I think the second or third time he had been sitting, but the first time it had garnered a lot of national attention because he was finally asked about why, and then he said, I'm not gonna I'm gonna get this a little bit wrong, but basically he said, I'm not gonna stand for a flag of a country that oppresses black people and people of color. I believe it was something like that.
Yeah.
And so, of course, boom, we're in the middle of the election cycle. It's like Trump versus Hillary. We're already very divided. And it just was like fuel to the fire for a lot of people on both sides of the issue. And, that was in Green Bay. And the next week they're playing the Chargers in San Diego. Or I don't know if that was in Green Bay. I shouldn't say that. That was against the Packers. I can't remember if it was San Francisco or Green Bay. But anyway, playing the Chargers the next week. A couple days after that had happened, I wrote that open letter because I just wanted to calm people down and try to give, my perspective on it, but also help people understand that, like, you're only going to understand your experience and your relationship to whether it's the flag or the anthem or patriotism or whatever. That's all, a product of what you've lived through.
Right.
And we got to be less judgmental and whatever. So I put that out there, and Colin actually reached out to me. So the letter kind of took off.
Right.
I was actually about to go on NFL Network, and I was in the green room getting ready to do my first interview about this thing. And I was pretty nervous because I feel like now, becoming a polarizing figure somewhat.
Right, you're part of the story.
Yeah, part of the story. And people in the veteran community are starting to divide over this thing too. And that I'm like, I'm trying to hold everything together as much as I can. And his publicist reached out and said he wanted to meet. So the next day, I went down to San Diego and met him in the team hotel on game day before the game. And the interesting facts about the game is it was just maybe a week or two before today, which is September 11th. This was, the 15-year anniversary of 9/11. So that was the last Chargers home game before 9/11. So it was Military Appreciation Day. They had a flyover. They had Navy SEALs, jumping into the stadium, like this whole thing. And so when we met, we kind of talked about that stuff. And, but we also, more than anything, my mindset going down there was just like, listen to him. Don't be judgmental. Don't try to tell him what to do. Because I don't know any better than anybody else. Right. And I didn't really honestly, I didn't have kneeling in my mind at all going down there. I didn't even think that anything would change. My goal wasn't to make him stand or to do something else. It was just hear him out, have this conversation. He had requested meeting, so I wanted to hear what he had to say. And through our meeting, which was very, very respectful, and it was funny. It was just like two dudes hanging out. It was not this, like, in my mind, this momentous shift in America.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Down,
yeah. It was like if it wasn't game day, maybe there would have been a couple beers or something like that. It was just one of those things. And Eric Reed joined us, and we just talked about stuff. And by the end of the conversation, Colin just straight up asked, like, because I'd showed him some messages from veteran buddies of mine that some were upset, some were same place as me, just trying to understand why, and like open-minded about it and all these things. And he's like, all right, well, what can I do differently in your mind to not hurt the people in your community and in the veteran community, I mean, and to show, to show respect, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to stand. I've committed to that. And until I see, changes, it's just not going to happen. And, we talked about what those measurable changes looked like. And it was so early on in this whole thing, I don't think, he didn't really know. And that's totally fine. It was just like, I'm not there yet. This thing's blowing up a lot faster than I thought it would. Right. And so, he asked if there was a different way to demonstrate. And I said, I mean, if you're not going to stand, I think, first of all, the most important thing is to be alongside your teammates, because they're not all going to agree with you. You guys are different. I mean, I've fought in wars and on football fields, people next to me, man on my left and right, that we have nothing in common sometimes, but that stuff goes away when it's game time or when you're in a firefight or whatever. And I said, I think that's the most important. And he said, I agree with that. I think I should do something alongside my teammates. And that's when I suggested kneeling. I couldn't think of anything else you could do on the sideline, A, but B, when in our history, at least in my mind, has kneeling ever been seen as disrespectful? You know what I mean? Like people, you're on a knee when you get knighted back in medieval times. You propose to your wife on a knee. You pray on a knee. Something personal for me, like in the military, often we pay respects to a fallen brother in arms by taking a knee in front of their grave, and not even a military thing, just in general, like that. It's always seen as respectful to me. And humility. Humility. Yeah. And he agreed, and he thought that was it was actually more powerful than sitting. And so there it went. Eric Reed agreed too and said he was going to kneel that night. And I told him, if you guys are willing to do that, like I'll stand next to you, and support you. And so that night, the Niners had me on the field and for the kickoff or for the anthem and pregame and everything, and until the kickoff. And I stood next to him and Eric while they did that the first time. And the most bizarre part of this whole thing was there was an African American sailor in the Navy singing the national anthem, and there was people in the crowd booing at the same time because it wasn't their idea of what you're supposed to, So it was weird. It was a weird situation. I felt nerves through that whole time. There's one of the pictures there. I'm so nervous I got my hand in my pocket, which is a no-no when you're standing for the anthem. You know what I mean? I got my hand in my pocket and I took it out. There's another picture of me with it out because I'm halfway through the anthem. I'm like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? It's squared away here. But, it's obviously been polarizing ever since.
Right.
But.
So Kaepernick pretty well then. You've been a part of this basically since the beginning. Not through your plan, but...
I wouldn't say I know him pretty well. I wouldn't say I know him. I mean, we stayed in communication for about a year afterwards, but not like super close communication. Right. I mean, I learned a lot about him that day and who he is at least the amount of respect he had for me and the way that situation didn't seem to be manipulated. It wasn't a press opportunity for him. Right. There was no media there. It wasn't anything like that.
But you would say, I would ask you then, do you feel like you understand the integrity of what he was trying to do or what he is doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that being said, I mean, you are a veteran, you're a Green Beret, like you've, as you said, fought in wars. So nobody's calling into question your patriotism, obviously. So when you see like just the vitriol that's put not only on him, but like really to anyone who's been a part of this, and a step further to anyone who really supports what they're doing, to openly supports them. And you have, the president calling them sons of bitches and, whatever you think of the president, like I think most rational people would agree that's not presidential talk in general, whatever your, political affiliations lie, which obviously you're sure is pretty clear about that.
Yeah.
But
it's pretty political.
Right. Yeah. Seeing that you were there from the beginning and kind of had a hand in directing how this went, again, not through any intention of your own, really, obviously, from that story. What does that make you feel when you see and read and hear like things that are said about not only Kaepernick but other guys or people who participate in it?
I mean, first of all, take the presidential title off of him. Any person that has a platform that would say something like that, you're gonna take offense and you're gonna stick up for your buddies. You know what I mean? Like if somebody said that about someone in the military, you know what I mean? It's like and I know the guy, and I've worked with the guy. Yeah, I'm gonna stand up for them. Whether I agree with what they're doing or not. Like that's not. We don't do that. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't take that. And I mean that was a moment. I think he was in the moment speaking to his base, and it's like he couldn't help himself. You know what I mean? It was like
he gets up there and freestyles for
whatever.
sure.
I mean,
I feel like he's using the one place in America, obviously in the military, race doesn't matter when you're fighting in a firefight with your boys and your brothers and your sisters in arms and fighting for America. But football, sports, locker rooms is the one place in America where Republicans and Democrats, regardless, you'll die for your brother. You'll fight for your brother. And I feel like Trump he's of all things, he is smart in the sense of manipulating people. And I feel like he's using a place where Americans, regardless of political affiliation, are coming together and using that place to try to divide, to just gain his constituency. I just see that happen. And that's why I feel like there's been this war on football in a certain extent just to put people against the thing that is actually unifying us.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's been a tough one too with just the idea of what being patriotic is, because now in this day and age, I feel like it's almost a bad word sometimes. If you're patriotic, or even if you have conservative values,
Right.
it's like that makes you a racist or somebody that is not open-minded, or
Right.
just, and we're putting each other in boxes.
Right.
And
Everything's binary.
yeah, everything's binary. That's a good way of putting it, and that's really frustrating. That's really it's frustrating as a member of the military community, which is the most diverse microcosm in the country, in my opinion. I mean, we are all over the map. We're from everywhere. We believe everything.
Right.
Men, women, totally different circumstances, situations, upbringings, and we kind of put all that stuff aside and work together for the most part. We don't always like each other. We definitely don't always agree with each other, but we can move past that. And it's a lesson that I think our country needs right now. But yes, football, sports in general, it's one of those unifying things. I mean, what I love about football games, and I mentioned this, I wrote something recently about this, and we don't even talk to our neighbors. You know what I mean? We don't. We go to a game though.
Yeah.
I have no idea who you are. You're sitting next to me.
Yeah.
If you're wearing Niner stuff or whatever, and we score, we're hugging,
Yeah,
or high five.
exactly.
We don't care. You know what I mean? We don't care, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? And that's amazing. And I definitely don't want to lose that through all of this. And I think we haven't lost it, and we won't. It's too powerful.
Well, yeah, you were a football player. You were a long snapper for the University of Texas, and had a tryout with the Niners, and was with the Seahawks in preseason. So it's funny that you say it's like a war on football. That is kind of how it feels. And now when we talk about the NBA being kind of like the anti-football, they're very social media heavy, and they're very supportive of their stars. And then you kind of have the NFL, who's at this for lack of a battle with the players, and then Cap has the collusion case. So
I think the NFL has a more conservative fan base, though. I think
I've always said that. I've always argued that, and I don't think that's going to
versus
change.
the NBA.
Right.
I think it does.
Versus the NBA, but the NFL also has a bigger audience. So
True.
you're going to have more of that, just talking about microcosms, just expanding, like the NFL.
international.
Yeah. Not even internationally, because I think the NBA is bigger internationally, because they can't
Right.
they don't play football all over the world. They do play basketball all over the world. Right. But my bigger point is the idea that owners have the mentality of, you have to do what I say, and you have to protest this way, and, kind of being afraid of what Trump is saying and what maybe their conservative fans are saying. If you were to get in a room with the owners, which the players have done, trying to negotiate, what's the policy for proper anthem etiquette, which sounds ridiculous anyway. It's right. What would be your advice for the NFL? You're in a room right now. It's Roger Goodell. It's all the owners,
Jerry
and
Jones
it's
is right
yeah,
there.
Jerry's right there.
Robert,
Yeah,
Kraft.
yeah.
Everyone's there.
Everyone's there. Jerry and Robert are there.
The wrinkle faces.
What's your and they have to do whatever you say.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, whatever you say,
No.
you're gonna determine.
There you go. Power, sir.
Yes. Okay, they don't have to do what you say, but this is your final word to them. This is what you should do. This is what I believe will never make everybody happy, but will address the situation appropriately.
I think my first question would be is where are all the players in this meeting? Where are
Okay,
the players in this
the
meeting?
players' representatives are in the
They
room.
have to be. Well, that meeting they had, the last one they had, where they came up with that policy, and then they went back, they backpedaled on it. There was no players in that
Right.
meeting. It was
Insane.
So in this hypothetical scenario, there were player representatives in the room.
In this scenario,
Yeah.
the NFL
The
is smart enough to have
NFLPA
I don't want
players
that
as well.
power. I don't want that
The
power.
NFLPA is there as well. Because what I would say is have. This is my suggestion, but I'm more of a democratic person when it comes to these things. You have a vast amount of diversity in not only the fan base, but sponsors and fans,
Players.
every players.
Yes.
This is all about America. All right. It's America's game, right? So you're not going to please everybody. That if you try to make everybody happy, you will make no one happy. True. So my mentality is have the players come up with a solution, have the owners come up with a solution, mush it together. Find something that you guys vote on. It was a time when we voted on things in this country and it was actually on the up and up. So just do that.
True.
And then go with whatever policy that is. And to me, it's what frustrates me, and like I said, I'm a military family as well, is that it's the whole thing has been made as an attack on the military, an attack on the flag. And I say this every time. The players never even used to come out for the national anthem. They didn't even come out up until recently.
Yeah.
Like,
College football, they still don't.
Right. So it's like this whole mentality has kind of been like circulated off like meme news. You know, like nobody actually does any research on what's actually happening. So to me, it's frustrating when the answer is always like, well, you're disrespecting the military. Like, you can respect the military, you can love your country, and you can also say, hey, I don't think it's okay that a bad cop shot an innocent, unarmed black man in the back. They don't all have to be mutually exclusive. So that's what I get frustrated when people are so hardcore lined about it. Like, you don't have to pick and choose a side on this. If there's bad lawyers, they get disbarred. If there's a bad doctor, they lose their license. If it's a bad cop, they shouldn't be patrolling the streets with a gun. I don't think that's unfair.
I don't agree. Or I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa.
No, yeah.
It's like,
Soundbite. No. My dad, obviously, he was a former homicide detective as well in Detroit, and his big thing during all of the slew of unarmed black men killed by police officers was these men were not in the military. He just kept preaching that the standards for police officers in America have lowered because you need more people to wear the badge, to protect and serve. And the lack of military training from these police officers is why you're bringing preconceived notions and prejudices to the job that people in the military have been stripped from them from going through real life-threatening things together with people who don't look like them, and they're trying to fight for America. So I'm with you, and the thought of kneeling being a negative thing is crazy. Like, what NFL team doesn't kneel to talk to the coach after every practice?
Like, when somebody's hurt on the field.
Hard on the field. It's always an act of respect. It's always you're always humbling yourself. You're lowering yourself. You're coming down. It's humbling. So the attack on the act of kneeling it just seems so easy and lazy, and it's a tweet after a tweet. And I just worry we're not thinking honestly and truly about what we feel as people, like what's going to be the best for Americans and moving forward, because it just feels like we're moving backwards. And I hate that you were a huge part of fixing things, and just because of own narratives and things that people want to perpetuate, regardless of what the truth of the matter is, people just still want to be divided.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to be fair, even from a military perspective, from a veteran perspective, like, we make mistakes overseas. We do. We're not perfect, and we're always, everyone's always thanking for your service. You're a hero. I'm like, yes, but I mean, maybe.
Right.
There's people that have made that, so it's not as cut and dried and as binary with that either. But at the same time, like, when it's not right, when the mistakes are made, like, you have to fix them. You have to be all about that. You can't always just say, well, it's okay to make a mistake sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it happens, but it's not okay. It's not okay. You know what I mean? Sam Darnold throws a pick six on the first play of the game. It happens, but what are you going to do to bounce back from that and fix that? So every time this is happening, regardless of the numbers, I mean, people will throw stats around all day long. Well, it's only this. It's a very small percentage of unarmed black men that are okay. Was an unarmed black man killed? Yes. I don't care what color he is. Was a person killed that shouldn't have been killed? Like, all right, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed. It doesn't need to be just put to the side or said like, well, these things happen. Sometimes you break eggs. Like, okay, tell that to the mother. Tell that to the brother.
Yeah, and that's really that's the beginning. That's the genesis of all of this, is that it's not this that it's happening. Like, it's been happening forever. Like, hello, there was slavery. Like, there was unarmed black people being killed for a pretty long time in this country. Right. The point that Kaepernick is trying to make is that there's an injustice. People are going to be killed. Good people are going to be killed. Bad people are going to be killed. That's reality. That's life. There's no justice. That's really what the whole point of it is. Yeah. Nobody's saying that they're going to end anything. You're not going to end racism. You're not going to end murders. Like, there's prisons. People still kill people.
There's no utopia.
Right. Yeah. But the point is that there needs to be progression, and that was the point of all of it.
Especially in our country. Like, that's what we are about. It's what we've always been about. We've made a million mistakes in this country's history, like terrible ones. But I feel like over time we have improved. We've tried to fix those things. We always do, for the most part. Most people are all about like let's fix this, move forward. That was awful. That was a terrible decision.
Right. Let's not repeat our mistakes.
No, and like you said, let's not move backwards.
Right. Yeah. Right. So coincidentally, it's 9/11, and that's a time where we always like try to think about what it's like when we all come together over something, controversial or traumatic. So you don't want to address the owners. You don't want that responsibility. But if you could get a message to, say, the person who maybe not necessarily is burning their Nikes, because I think that person's probably a little too far gone, but just someone who's like, I really find everything about what Kaepernick does is offensive. Say they're not in the military and they're just so offended by the idea of it because they think it's an attack on our military and like an attack on our country, and they're not understanding what it is. What would you tell that person?
Well, I'd say most of those people, I think they're just reading headlines, first of all. And a lot of the headlines focus on protesting the anthem, not a protest during the anthem of something else, right? A police brutality,
right?
Of
which is important. It's wording,
right? Yeah, the criminal justice system, all these things like that is very important. But also to just assume, to put all of us in the veteran community in a box and assume that we all think the same way and we all feel the same way. That's generalizing. You know what I mean? It's not racist because we're not a race,
right?
But it's along those lines of like
it's stereotyping.
Assuming stereotyping. Sure. Thank you. That's a much better word. And of assuming because I wear camouflage, I feel this way, and that the flag and the anthem, the symbols, which are very important to me, but the symbols are more important than the Constitution, which is false. The oath we take when we join the military is an oath to defend the Constitution. And the First Amendment in the Constitution is free speech. And so that's what it is right there. Talking about burning Nikes, I defend the person that would burn an American flag right in front of me. I hate it. It hurts, but I fought for that right. I fought for those freedoms. And all of us did, whether we like it or not. And I think more people in the veteran community, way more people in the veteran community understand that and support that than these people that didn't serve, that just assume or use veterans as like,
scapegoat.
Scapegoat. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. For their own opinion. So you do something pretty cool with Jay Glazer, who's in the Fox family. What's up, Jay? Yeah. And I saw that you work out at his performance center.
Yeah. Unbreakable.
Yep. Yeah. I did a few classes there. I'm not really cut out for that stuff. I'm more of like a yoga person.
Okay.
I gotta get in there.
The circuit classes, I can't do it.
You gotta get in there.
I gotta get in there.
It's the heart rate thing,
Well, you gotta come. You gotta come.
I don't want to do that.
You gotta come to MVP on Wednesday nights.
Okay. So tell us about this.
Please.
That's why I brought it up.
So MVP stands for Merging Vets and Players. What we're bringing together former professional athletes and combat veterans, and helping them find service and purpose together once the uniform comes off. Obviously, what we did on the battlefield, on the football field, or in the octagon or whatever, completely different. But those locker rooms, I will tell you, those locker rooms are the same. You know what I mean? It's the same type of brotherhood. It's the same type of, I don't care where you're from. Right. You get over that stuff. But also, the careers end typically pretty young. A lot of life left to live, and you've hit this high of like, feeling maybe I will never do anything as important as I did before. Tony Gonzalez was in just a month ago and sat in on every Wednesday night. We meet at the gym, we train together, and then we kind of fellowship and have like a fireside chat on the wrestling mats afterwards and just talk about stuff. Guys, it's like a sounding board. People just let stuff off. We're all kind of coaching each other up. And Tony was sitting there talking about, sorry to call him out here, but maybe he's saving the story for another day. It's too late.
He's a Fox family member too. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's fine. Tell him whatever he said.
Yeah.
We leave it all on the mats except for Tony's stuff. I blast that everywhere.
Stories everywhere. Yes.
But he was talking about, he played, I think, 17 years, obviously Hall of Famer, probably the best tight end that ever played the game. And he said it was 3 months after he got done playing. He was on vacation with his wife. It's supposed to be this, great time. Finally, like, we have some free time. We can just be and, move on with our futures and relax and have this time together. And he was like a wreck, and she knew something was up. And they were at dinner one night, and he just like broke down in the middle of this restaurant and just started crying. She was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I'll never be great again." He's like, "It's just like I'm trying to figure out what this feeling has been, and that's what it is." And he said it was just, it's hard. It's traumatic, It's obviously, It's different than serving your country, but those feelings are the same. I promise you. It's more about purpose. And,
it's a complete change of identity.
Yeah, and
you have to reinvent yourself.
And you're a part of this machine, but you're a part of something that's important, that matters to a lot of people.
Bigger than you.
Yeah. You have to sacrifice. I'm sorry, but you do have to sacrifice a lot to be a professional athlete. You sacrifice a lot, and you have to put a lot of time in, especially to be the best and to be great, no matter how talented you are. And then it's all over, and there's this feeling, even though it's not true, but you feel like nobody cares anymore. Nobody gives a damn about me, and I'll never peak. I've already peaked. I've got 2/3 of my life left to live, and it's done or whatever. And it's just not true, And so what we're all about at MVP is not only reminding each other of who we are, what we're capable of, but like pushing each other to find that next. To find that next goal, to chase that, whatever the new carrot is. Like, we all have something in our lives that we want to do, that we're passionate about, and like utilizing all the skills you acquired, whether it was in the military or in sports, to achieve those things. You know what I mean? Or at least chase them, even if you never achieve them. Like, that was the most fun to me always in sports. It wasn't so much like making the team or getting on the field. It was like, I really do, like, you talk about embrace the grind and all that stuff. Like, it's hard when you're doing it, but when you look back after you win that starting job or whatever, and you look back, what meant the most to you was all that time you put in, you know what I mean? And chasing that dream. And then, that's still who we are. We're not the uniform we were, you know what I mean? Right. We're the person that sacrificed so much to get to that level. You know what I mean? And we're still that person. We just got to remember it.
People criticize moving the goalposts, but in life, that's what it's all about, right? Like, once you get up there and you dunk on the goalpost because you already scored, you got to go for your next goal, and you got to keep pushing it forward. So it's great that you guys are coming together and like just realizing each other's goals and encouraging each other to get to them. Yeah,
it's been amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
come by,
we started in LA.
I'm willing to get my heart rate up because you sold it.
Yes, you got to.
You got to.
It's like I do hot yoga, right? It's like it's a slow. I told you the anxiety thing. It's good.
Hot yoga. It feels like hot yoga in here. I'm
It is so
sweaty.
It's so hot in here. It's very hot.
We put up this great. We did
so
this
the
just for you.
thermostat is we put this up for you, so we could hide the thermostat.
Right.
And,
thermostat is behind.
The thermostat is behind this.
We got to cut a wall in there.
It's really. I think you know what? I think we do have to do that.
Let
Actually,
me get back there.
That's the first good idea you've ever had, and I think let's write that down because we really do. It's been so hot in here the past couple of days. So you can find out about that at vetsandplayers.org and follow them at Merging Vets and Players.
Yep. We started in LA. We got a Vegas chapter. We just opened in Chicago too.
Awesome.
Nice. The player engagement people at the NFL made us a very nice donation to expand, and our goal is every NFL city. So
that's great.
We'll get there.
That's great. So are you doing it this Wednesday?
This Wednesday, 7 p.m. Unbreakable Performance Center.
Tomorrow, huh?
Yep, you're gonna be there.
I'm working out
until I realize
I'm there. What time?
7 p.m.
If Nate Boyer is saying, "Hey, Brandon, come on," I'm there.
If I can talk, I can talk to Roland coming. He's 13-year NBA vet.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right.
I'd love to have him. Seriously, it's happening.
Okay, all right.
Calling you out if it doesn't.
We're committing.
Maybe I'm crazy live from MVP.
Yeah. Well, let's take a picture before we sweat, right?
Yes.
I always want to take the group picture after the workouts over.
Yeah, you proved that you.
I sound so
girly
working right now. Yeah, that's true.
Working.
That is true.
Thanks
so much for joining us, Nate. We totally appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thanks for everything that you do, and much respect.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it a lot.
Respect to you guys too.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm not.